All right, let's kick it off. Hello, everyone. My name is Caroline Barrera. I'm the Chief of Staff at Edge & Node. Welcome to the Q1 Graph 2024 Participant Update. A Q&A link will be shared throughout for all of your questions to be answered at the end of this call. We do ask that any AI-generated meeting recorders, note takers, otters, bots, etc., be disabled. And a quick disclaimer, as always, there are no forward-looking statements in this presentation. Agenda for the call today includes a snapshot of Q1 2024, core initiatives and a GIP update, some ecosystem updates, network stats, concluding remarks from Edge & Node CEO Tegan Klein, and a Q&A. And with that, I'll kick it over to Max Tang, CFO at Edge & Node, to begin with the Q1 2024 snapshot.
Thanks, Caroline. Let's go to the next slide. So let's just take a quick overview of this quarter. Before we begin, I wanted to add a caveat to our historical data. This quarter, we enabled Stripe billing, and this update changes the cadence we bill for Cury fees in Studio, which made the billing contract no longer a suitable source for continued data monitoring. So we changed data source for Cury fees, Cury volume, and average Cury price from the billing contract to gateway logs. This change impacted the timing and cutoff of our historical data. The delta in absolute numbers is relatively small, but since we are talking about a small base, this quarterly trend may read differently. Okay, so let's take a look at the numbers. Cury fee was $43,000 in the first quarter. It represents a 43% increase quarter over quarter, but a 36% decline year over year. As you can see in the chart on the left-hand side, the revised data from the gateway shows a 36% quarter over increase in fourth quarter 23. So Cury fees have come around the corner following several quarters of decline due to gateway pricing config changes that we talked about earlier. And as you can see from the chart in the middle, the increase in Cury fees was mainly driven by the increase in Cury volume. Cury volume was 1.6 billion in first quarter 24. It represents a 66% increase quarter over quarter and 115% increase year over year. The revised Cury volume for fourth quarter 23 shows a 74% increase quarter over quarter and a 71% increase year over year. This increase in Cury volume was offset by a slight decline in average Cury price. So as you can see from the chart on the right-hand side, the average Cury price for the quarter was $27 per million Curies. It represents a decline of 14% quarter over quarter and a 70% decline year over year. As mentioned in the last quarter, we've been tweaking the ISA, and we increased Cury fees to $30 per million Curies towards the end of first quarter 24. So this quarter represents a partial quarter of this change. So average pricing for the quarter is unfortunately still down. We'll talk about more about Cury pricing later. So let's go to the next slide. The biggest initiative of this quarter is still Sunrise. This quarter, we completed many milestones. We launched the upgrade interface. So far, we've been hearing very positive feedbacks on the interface. Judging from our product level data, usually users are able to get their subgraph upgraded within 1 minute. Now, in order to use the subgraph, they have to change the code base, which would take a bit more time. But the user flow itself has been very constructive on our conversion rate from hosted service to the network. We also offered a free Cury plan. Now, everybody has access to 100,000 free Curies a month on the network. In April, we also kicked off the 60-day upgrade window. We're now actively reaching out to projects to upgrade. Please amplify the message where you can. And finally, we expect to complete a Sunrise either by the end of this quarter or early next quarter. Tegan will talk a little bit more about Sunrise later. Overall, we are pretty happy about execution so far, and we are cautiously optimistic about Sunrise. With that, let me turn it over to Eva.
Thanks, Max. We can go next slide. Cool. So we have a ton of updates. We have been nonstop shipping across all of our core dev teams. We have 8 teams. So I'll dive into various aspects of our technical progress. So as a recap, there's 5 key tenets of our roadmap that we established in Q4 of last year. Most of Q1 and Q2 has really been focused on Sunrise and basically expanding our data services. So that is supporting subgraphs while also creating space for a lot of new data services and new user types and new use cases. So World of Data Services has really been an exciting initiative already in Q1 and Q2. And we will actually be launching several of these ending Q2, early Q3. On the Sunrise topic, Edge and Node has been doing a lot of great work on improving the billing experience. So we enabled 100,000 free queries. That is, any user that comes online using subgraphs that they've upgraded or using them on the network get this exciting free query plan. And then we also have an exciting feature that is, you get to pay for the queries that you need. You're not tied into some vendor lock-in like other providers, and it really creates flexibility for any kind of user, whether you're a hackathon user or a very large DApp in Web3. So really exciting progress here. And also Stripe and Visa are all supported. So really any payment method that devs want to use, it doesn't have to be GRT. They can really use the graph at ease. We now support over 50 chains, so really exciting. Last time we met, I think it was around only over 40 chains. So we're working really hard with a lot of the ecosystem teams like Optimism to actually bring on those chains really quickly, even before they go live on mainnet. So working with several folks right now that are on testnet, and would love to hear from you guys if there's any new chains coming up that you think are seeing high demand or are likely to see high demand, meaning a lot of developers using it, more dApps. We'd love to get there early and be even the first provider and first launch partners for those chains. Yeah, we actually just supported Monad. I see someone's comment. And we ran an event with them in Dubai during Token 2049. Another really cool feature is the Graphtech is officially integrated into ETH clients. So we've been working on this for months with Geth and the Aragon teams to basically integrate Firehose tracing into Geth clients, meaning anyone running a Geth client, and also for all the other EVM compatible chains, Firehose is upstreamed basically into the client code. So really exciting to see that progress. And it just goes to show that the graph really is setting the standard for the best way to retrieve data from blockchains. Moving on chains and sort of the developer experience on some of these chains. So Bitcoin is a chain we supported in Q1. And Bitcoin's been super interesting because the architecture of the chain being so different than some of the EVM chains, the use cases are also different. So we launched the BRC20 subgraph. We think this is probably one of the largest use cases to come for Bitcoin subgraph usage. So anybody looking to build on Bitcoin or currently running a dashboard, maybe for funds or kind of on-chain analytics, this subgraph would be a great one to start with. And then we also have our builders DAO that helps build these out. So if you're finding other needs for Bitcoin that are more nuanced, we'd love to chat with you just because Bitcoin is such a unique use case. Really excited about GraphNode. This might be super nerdy, but we have a few features that just came out that really level up subgraphs. So one is enabling aggregations directly in the schema. This really makes it much easier for dApps that maybe are combining stats or things like trade volume. Parallel execution really makes the performance of the subgraph much more efficient. And personally, I'm really excited about the ETH get balance support because this unblocks use cases like wallets that aren't necessarily looking for event data, but they want to see changes in state like balance data. So really excited about this. And we're also starting to talk more with dApps to see, what other new features would they want to see in GraphNode to really level up their own product experiences. So on the research side, we've been working a lot with the semiotic team, which focuses on cryptography and verifiability. on what layer of the stack in the graph should verifiability exist. And it's become clear that should be at the Firehose level because that is the raw ingestion layer. That's where, you know, the most raw of all the data is in the stack. And as you go up the stack to substreams and subgraphs, it gets more organized. So by working on making the Firehose verifiable, we ensure that any other data that's pulled above that, such as subgraph data, is also verifiable. So we're working a lot on this on the research side, trying to figure out, you know, what is the right ZK co-processing method and verifiability method. But this will also then launch as a verifiable data service itself, which means anyone who's running a node or even for their own dApps can actually utilize verifiable data. But one thing that we have learned just kind of over the years is that users have very different desires of verifiability or determinism. So some users like really care because maybe that's the use case, maybe it's a security mechanism, while other users actually don't care very much and they're willing to just kind of get the latest state update. And so it's an interesting use case of, you know, there are going to be many different data services, verifiability being one of them, but there will also continue to be other data services that aren't verifiable. And just a little more on kind of what verifiable Firehose enables. Basically, all of the historical state data, transaction data, all of that could be made verifiable. And so this actually could solve EIP 444s as well, as the graph would become sort of the only verifiable player in Web3 that actually has a network of nodes. So as decentralized as you know, running an ETH node used to be, an ETH archive node, but making sure that that data really is being returned accurately and correctly. Cool. Maybe the data service I'm personally most excited about is AI. So we've actually been working for several months now on a white paper that will be released soon that goes in depth on all the ways that the graph can actually support AI and what AI data services could look like. So for example, inference and indexers actually running the models is a very clear use case. You know, usually you either have the chops and the GPUs to run models yourselves or you don't. And then, you know, you have to embark on sort of this journey of accessing tokens or even understanding your usage. And with the graph, you could actually just pay per token per se, or call or query to different kinds of models. And so really excited to dive into what the world could look like with the graph actually supporting an AI ecosystem. And this also will unlock a lot of new functionalities for dApp builders themselves that want to integrate AI. So I won't say too much more on that. Look out for the white paper coming soon. The last thing, maybe if you want to go to the next slide, Caroline. The last thing on AI is just to maybe run through a really cool example that we're looking at that's actually a graph native example. So a way the graph can use AI within the graph. So in this example, if you look to the left, you'll see an AI gateway and AI indexers. And so in this case, you could have them run code generation models, meaning they actually return SQL queries. And so you can envision basically creating a ChatGPT-like experience that combines two different data services on the graph, the SQL data service that we're launching very soon, as well as an AI data service to basically enable ChatGPT-like experience, where a user asks a question like, give me the last 10 trades on Uniswap. The AI gateway and the AI indexers process that. They return a SQL query. That SQL query then goes to the SQL gateway, and the SQL gateway and indexers return the natural language. So really exciting because this, you know, could be a whole new way that dApps can enable AI that really hasn't been possible in Web3. So we're excited to, you know, share that with everybody and then also bring that to market. I was just talking about SQL, and so you know, we're continuing down this path to launch very shortly. The launch itself will be Subgraph SQL, so that means people and applications can query subgraphs via SQL instead of GraphQL. This has been particularly demanded by analytics dApps, where GraphQL just isn't the most efficient and performant language for their use case. So that might be things like analytics tracking or dashboards. And so by enabling SQL, we basically expand the functionality of subgraphs. And we're also exploring what other more performant architecture we could be building in with GraphNode or adjacent to GraphNode to make SQL much more robust. Really exciting last minute milestone in Q1 was the graph saving the blobs. We really felt it was important to make sure blob data was accessible after EIP 4844 came into effect. So you can access all blobs on the graph. And as we work closer to our verifiability, we actually ensure that the graph is also a verifiable solution for accessing this blob data. So really exciting for anybody that's building on Web3. Another really exciting layer of kind of our payments and billing initiative has been Scalar Tap, which is a more efficient payment system for indexers. So it relies on receipts and also basically just makes it much more efficient for indexers to actually get paid and close their allocations. So all we care about really on the indexer side is making sure that their job is easier to do the work that dApps need. And so Scalar really makes that much easier with micropayments. And this is basically ready to be integrated at the stack. So we'll be spending the next few weeks getting indexers up and running. On Horizon, so if you've been following along in the forum, you'll know that we've been making a ton of progress on this version 2 of the protocol. Very exciting as it makes the graph much more permissionless and accessible, enables sort of broader governance from the community. And we've been making a lot of progress. We'll be heading into audits, I think, in about 3 weeks, actually. So over the summer, you should expect to see other sort of bounties and code audit competitions and whatnot. So yes, if you are interested in looking into the code, look out for that, and we'll definitely look for any community support. And then lastly, so you all might have heard of Geo, which is Yaniv, one of the founders of the Graphs project, about to come to market. And really that project focuses on knowledge graphs and enabling real world data, not just blockchain data, to be organized in Web3 spaces. So we're really excited to be supporting that. It is entirely built on the graph and will actually make the real world data on Geo accessible to anybody else building other applications, just as much as you can query any other subgraph. So we're really excited to see that the sort of blend of Web 2 and Web 3 happening. I think that's it. Yes, just one more GIP update. So as you've seen, we've been working on a ton of things. We also have the graph improvement proposal process, which is the formal protocol upgrade process. So we've been finalizing a few things on Scalar as well as Horizon and getting Horizon into the open so folks can review it, especially indexers and other users of the protocol. But we've also done a really great job of kind of tying up loose ends that really were needed to enable Sunrise, enable more permissionless payment. So that's the predecessor to enabling Scalar was requiring permissionless payment. We're also looking at how to improve our own process itself. So making it more efficient for core devs, graph node contributors, et cetera, to actually interact with the council and the protocol. And yeah, so look out in the forum for continued updates on GIPs.
Super. Thank you very much, Eva. Hey guys, I am Etienne, and I'm really excited to give you some update on ecosystem. So the first update is about a blog post that we published about a few days ago on May 2nd about the Sunrise 4 million GRT upgrade program, and that will last until June 20th. And the goal is to help us to support the Subgraph update from hosted services to the Graph network. And that means that you can go and complete missions, both on-chain and also off-chain. We cater towards these missions for technical, but also non-tech, which means that as a non-technical, you can write some posts, you can write memes also, you can create content. And if you more have a tech background, you can work more on Subgraph as well as share codes. As a foundation, we have allocated about 4 million graph token through this, and anyone can join. So if you want to join, I invite you to go to read on our website. You will have to register, and then after that, you will get some news on emails where you will see all the missions that you can do. And yeah, please, share with, next slide. So we talked about it on the last update. Infra DAO was founded in the fall. It's led by Oriane and now has grown to be quite a good team. It's work with a focus to support and empower indexers. Today, it has also worked to improve tooling, documentation, as well as to support as an ecosystem. In terms of the tech support, the team has done a great job. They have led about 7 new networks over the past couple of months. One keynote is that if you have any questions from funds, from exchanges, about how to stake GRT, please reach out to them. They have been getting quite a good engagement to support custodian as well as some exchanges. So, they are here if you have any questions. Next slide. So the other DAO is called the Builders DAO. They are not focused around indexer, they're more focused to support around building and support of Subgraph as well as substreams. Here's some example of some of their work around, supporting high volume subgrapher as well as supporting curve. Next slide. So one of the key ecosystem work that we have done over the past couple of months was to spend almost 1 month in Asia. So we were in Hong Kong, Tokyo, and Seoul, and that was great. And we have seen that as an ecosystem, the graph ecosystem there has grown very fast, I would say, for the past year. And so we have built now a very good relationship with media. So we have, met researchers, media firms. On ecosystem side, also we have done a local event, which was great. We had an event in Japan and Seoul. And we also had a great chance to meet some of our backers. So, next slide. And we continue to get tier 1 press. So you may have seen one podcast on TechCrunch where the CEO Tegan joined and talked about our roadmap and gave some great insight about where does the graph fit with the AI. So I invite you to have a look. And finally, we also talked about it at the last update, but we do run House of Web3, which is a great place in SF, based in Presidio. We hosted recently an event with Electric, which was good. And we also launched, if you want to join, a membership, which you can pay both in cash and crypto. And thank you very much. And now I will let Max.
Thanks, Etienne. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so first quarter 24, Cury fee was about $43,000, as mentioned. It represents a 43% quarter-over-quarter increase, but a 36% year-over-year decline. And average Cury price, as you can see from the chart on the right-hand side, was $27 per million Curies. It represents a 14% quarter-over-quarter decline and a 70% year-over-year decline. As mentioned, an increase in Cury volume was somewhat offset by the decrease in Cury pricing, which resulted in a more, I'd say, subdued Cury fee increase. So a little bit more color on Cury pricing. As we discussed last quarter, in the last few quarters, we've been tweaking the indexer selection algorithm, quote unquote, ISA. This resulted in several quarters of average Cury pricing decreases. So in first quarter, we more or less flattened the pricing to $30 per million Curies. We initially intended to remain at this range as discussed in the last quarterly call, but after hearing feedback from the ecosystem, we moderately increased the fees to $40 per million Curies in second quarter 24. This is still very competitive, plus that unlike some other API offerings in the market, the network currently doesn't charge separately on database entity counts. So pricing-wise, the network is still, I'd say, best in class. Since this change happened after the quarter and the shift to $30 per million Curies happened during the quarter, first quarter 24 still represented a transitionary quarter. We expect this disconnect between Cury fees and Cury volume to revert to normal in second quarter of 24. Next slide. So on Cury volume was about 1.6 billion. It represented a 66% quarter-over-quarter increase and a 115% year-over-year increase. Since first quarter 22, the compound annual growth rate was 366%. This increase in Cury volume was driven by, I would say, a broad recovery in Web3 in first quarter. We're seeing projects consume more data on average, and more projects are deploying to the network. Also, as we march towards sunrise, we're seeing projects start to proactively upgrade their subgraphs. Subgraph deployments queue rate was close to 2,000 as of end of the quarter. Let's go to the next slide. So now we have 1,952 active subgraph. It represents a 29% quarter-over-quarter increase and a 127% year-over-year increase. We added 474 subgraphs in the quarter, significantly outpacing previous quarters. Now, as you can see from the chart on the right side, vast majority of the creation is now on L2. And in terms of active data consumers, now we have 449 monthly active data consumers on the network. As a reminder, we define active paying data consumer as those who were billed and paid more than 0 GRT on chain for the past 30 days. Now, this data is from the billing contract, and it will have a slightly different cutoff than Cury fee and Cury volume data, which comes from the gateway. We ended the quarter with 13 consumers with more than 10 million monthly Curies. The largest data verticals are still DeFi, governance, data infrastructure, and also this quarter a little more on restaking. Let's go to the next slide. A very quick update on L2 migration. We started the project in late third quarter 23, as you may remember. Now we have close to 89% stake on L2. The rest 10% long tail stake is likely going to take significantly longer to migrate. But for the purpose of moving the protocol economy to L2, we are largely there. And this quarter, we have 92% of both Cury fees and Cury volume on L2, compared with 65% of volume and 59% of fees in fourth quarter 23. In terms of issuance, first quarter 24, the rate of issuance was 2.7%. This, as you can see from the chart, this is largely consistent with prior quarters. As of now, we don't expect the number to change much prior to Horizon. We are actively working on tokenomics improvements, and we welcome suggestions and inputs from the community. This quarter's Cury success rate was 99.2% and went down from 99.7% in fourth quarter 23. Our target is 99.9%, 3 nines, so we're still a touch below target. Median latency was 109 milliseconds. For context, a trip around the globe at the speed of light is around 130 milliseconds. P99 for the quarter was 759 milliseconds, 752 milliseconds, while median latency remained largely the same. P99 went up due to some complex queries on the network. We've been actively making diagnosis and issuing updates to the gateway. Both query success rate and latency have improved quite substantially this month. But given the increased activities from Sunrise, we are actively monitoring how the next 2 months unfold. In terms of active indexer count and delegator count, we ended the quarter with 181 active indexers, a decrease from 221 in fourth quarter 23. Our internal analysis shows that a very small number of high-quality indexers can sustain the current QoS, so we have not done much work in actively increasing our indexer base. That being said, we are expanding our footprint in traditionally weak areas such as Asia, as Etienne mentioned. If you know any good operators who understand database administration in the region and are aligned with the crypto values, we'd appreciate an introduction. Lastly, we ended the quarter with 109,000 delegators. This substantial surge is due to this Coinbase Learn and Earn campaign we mentioned in previous quarters. Most of these are pretty small, or I say nano delegators, but having the protocol on L2 made these activities economically feasible. With that, let me turn it over to Tegan.
Thank you so much. Okay, amazing. Well, we're on a mission to decentralize the internet and really to unleash the world's potential through shifting incentives and coordination online. And I really believe that that will have a ripple effect across the world. And I know there are dark moments in the world right now, and we really want to hold the light and give people optionality against some of that darkness or some of the authoritarian direction the world is going in. So with that, we now have a date for the Sunrise, which is a huge initiative. And it's been a huge undertaking. It's something we've wanted to do for the last 6 years. And now we finally have a date, which is June 12th. And that's when the hosted service will be upgraded in full to the decentralized network. And it really is, many years in the making. We promised we would do this. Here we are. We're doing it. And I'm really looking forward to the Sunrise, where we can just focus on the network and really improving the network and just have one main product to focus on. And with that, queries this quarter in Q1 hit an all-time high of 1.6 billion, which is a really big milestone for us. I remember when Eva was drafting the blog post for 1 billion queries on the hosted service 3 years ago. That was many years after we launched the hosted service, and now we're seeing over 1 billion queries each quarter, which is, it's a remarkable achievement, and that's on the decentralized network. And it's only going to grow from here. So with this, the Sunrise is all about getting subgraphs on the decentralized network. But as Eva alluded to, we're working on the world of data services. So what are the world of data services? Well, that's expanding the graph beyond just subgraphs to any data service that there is, including AI, not just LLMs, but video and audio generation as well. Being able to service that on the network, it makes indexing so much more interesting because the indexers can serve not just subgraphs, but any data service. Geo is also a data service, as Eva mentioned. This is kind of the global brain, expanding the graph beyond just the crypto community to those around the world, so they can add data to the graph and turn that data into actual knowledge. And it's kind of a glimmer of hope when it comes to communicating about what is true in the world. And then SQL, Subgraph SQL is coming. That's been a great initiative by Semiotic. So what this means is that there'll be even more queries on the decentralized network, and all of these data services are served in GRT. And with that, the last thing I want to mention is just Web3. Web3 isn't here yet. And you can look across the industry, and a lot of people are kind of cutting corners and choosing, things that aren't censorship resistant, that aren't decentralized. And we're here to ensure that Web3 happens, that we truly decentralize the internet, and that Web3 is built on top of the graph. And we're committed to that every single day. And with that, we can go to the next slide. So just double clicking into the sunrise. So this is really kind of our, it's us on this mission to bring decentralized data to the world, and really move away from these centralized kind of closed source practices and moving everything to the decentralized network. This was a meme created by the community, which I really like. And then, we have this single focus, as I mentioned, on the network, learning from our users to really improve the product, even though it is decentralized and censorship resistant, and that's kind of the mission. It needs to be easier to use than Web 2, and we're committed to making Web 3 extremely easy to use. And double clicking into this, Etienne mentioned the Sunrise Upgrade Program, but this is almost like our Curator Program Part 2. For the people, by the people, it's really all about the community. This changing incentives and coordination is in service of the community. And we wanted to activate the community, empower the community. The foundation put over $1 million behind this program. So please share this to your ecosystems, your communities. We would love to get more people involved, both OGs, but also people that want to get into Web3 and they don't know how. This is a great program for them. And we have over 1,500 registrations and then hundreds of submissions. And I believe today is the day for the first submissions. And then there'll be 4 more waves of missions sent out to the participants. I just wanted to share some other community memes that we've been seeing. There are a ton more. If you go into the Graphs Discord and the memes channel or the Sunrise Upgrade Program, you can see a lot more. But it's just been nice to kind of unleash some of that creative potential while also helping the ecosystem upgrade to the network. And lastly here, just double clicking into Mac's comments on how easy and quick it is to upgrade. The team put a ton of work into this upgrade flow and making it super seamless, super easy. We have here that it took less than 2 minutes. It was super smooth from a developer, and just again, kind of data freshness, speed, all of this. So it's nice to see the community recognizing the efforts that have gone into making this really easy.
Thanks, Tegan. So some thank yous from this quarter. Thank you to Craig and Michael of Reciprocal Ventures for the continued support and guidance, as always. Thank you to John Choi for the introductions in Korea. Thank you to Jay Han for all the opportunities in Hong Kong. Thank you to Nick Carter, Vanessa Grillet, David Post, David Peel, Aisha Kiani for the recruiter referrals. Thank you to Builders DAO for all the improvements around latency, subgraph optimizations, and beyond. And lastly, thank you to Ben Foreman of Parify Capital for the introductions. How you can help. So amplify the Sunrise plan. We'll include a link to that. Invite your network to participate in the Graph Sunrise Upgrade Program. Very easy to sign up from our homepage link. We are hiring for key positions across the Graph ecosystem. Some high priority focuses for Edge and Node are database administrator, Rust engineer, SRE tech lead, and a site reliability engineer. There's a couple additional roles in here from the Graph Foundation, the Guild, Streaming Fast. We'd love to invite you to co-create at the House of Web3. Definitely let us know if you'll be in Brussels for ETHCC. We're Tegan's hosting an epic Graph Sunrise party, so let us know if you'll be there. We'll get you on the list. Move your delegation to L2 if you haven't already, and continue to delegate on the Graph to help secure the network. And now it's time for our Q&A. Okay, first question. Very excited to hear more about data services to come with AI. Do you have teams working on AI integrations as we speak? dApps enabling AI, any dream dApps in mind?
Yeah,
Eva?
I can answer this one. So we are speaking with a few grantees that are already experimenting with what AI integrations could look like. But we expect we'll just see a lot more once we release the AI white paper, just because it'll be a little bit more specific. My personal dream would be, I think that we haven't seen any experimentation with like AI integrations at the dApp layer. So like front ends having ChatGPT like experiences that are focused on that dApp or smart contract data. And so all of that could be powered by the graph. So I'm looking forward to seeing that play out.
Yeah, also double clicking into that, there's the famous saying of that the person who rules the data rules the world, and the graph has all of the data. So I'm excited to see these AI models be trained on that data for the indexers to choose which models that they want to run, and thus, increasing censorship resistance when it comes to AI. But also it's a new interface to query the Graphs network, the Graphs decentralized network. I'm excited for that. But then you can imagine right now it's a lot of humans taking actions on chain, and thus, subgraphs and GRT query fees and all of these things. Well, fast forward into the future, you'll have agents also taking actions in addition to humans. So I'm looking forward to that explosion in activity as well.
Next question, when will we hear more about Geo?
Great question. So Univ is having a launch party this summer. So reach out if you want to get invited to that. I believe it's going to be in San Francisco. But Geo is he calls it a Web3 browser. You can kind of think of it like this Wikipedia-like interface to the world of Web3. And what I really like about Geo is the different communities. So you can have a physical community like San Francisco, and they're really focused on San Francisco and bringing people together and improving the city. But also you can have digital communities, and that can expand to anyone. And I just think community is so powerful, not just in Web3, but also to give people purpose and meaning in life. So it's really tapping into the different communities that exist. Anyone can create a space on Geo and kind of have your own community. So you all could have like an indexer community there. You could have a VC community there. Maybe you want to have a space that's just you and your portfolio companies. So really the opportunities are limitless. It's permissionless to create a space. So I'm super excited about that. And I'm also excited that it'll bring more normal people into Web3.
Great. There was no other submissions for questions at this time. So does anyone have any questions on their mind? We're happy to take those. Well, if you think of any questions, definitely let us know. As Tegan mentioned, we are hosting an event during Consensus with Reciprocal Ventures. So let us know if you are going to be there, you'd like to be invited, as well as ETHCC. And then a question just came in from Kem. Any insight into ideas around tokenomics?
Yeah, absolutely. So this has been a huge initiative that we've been working on, just improving our tokenomics, simplifying them, and also just growing network effects. So if you want to jam on tokenomics, I'm happy to schedule a meeting and we can kind of go through some of that, some of the latest thinking, but a lot of exciting updates there and improvements to come. Great question. Thank you.
Any other questions, thoughts? All right, everybody. Well, thanks so much for joining. We will be sending out a recap of the call as well as a recording and include all the links that we mentioned. So hoping to see everybody soon and have a great rest of your week.
Thank you so much. Appreciate everyone joining. Great to see you all. Have a great one.
Thank you.